you, Madam Chair. I know that Mr. Norman has had some good experiences with the 504 loan programs, and Ms. Nelson, you say it's cumbersome. Tim, did you find that it was cumbersome when you were put into another loan in an hour?
Well, I think there's two different pieces and parts to it. We actually used, I'd have to defer to Katie on the actual name.
But I guess my point is, you're right, and Katie probably worked on that too, but we're trying to make this process not cumbersome. You know, the application is smaller, the process has gotten less, the fees have been taken off. I mean, we're doing everything in our power to make it not cumbersome. And, you know, some of the problems lie with the perception of being cumbersome. So we would like your input in writing to our offices or to the chairwoman, but everything we've done since we've reauthorized the SBA process has been to eliminate that cumbersome process. You know, we've increased the government, the part that the government backs. So everything we've done is to try to make that process not cumbersome. So, you know what, I would like to other people to give their inputs, because if it's still got the perception that it's cumbersome, we still have our work cut out for us, because we're doing everything to make sure it's not. So I would like to make sure that we are doing whatever it takes to make sure it's not. Mr.
We used a third party, and they actually did the whole
right.
process. I think it was called the Small
Yes.
Business Growth.
Right. We talked about that yesterday. You're right.
So
You're right.
they did all the paperwork, and they actually knew the new regs coming out before the SBA did.
Right, right. And there are other things, but does anyone else want to share some of the processes if they've used the 504 loan program or some of the other programs that the SBA offers?
We have used the programs considerably over the last few years. We moved into a new facility. We're now in the process of putting on a new addition onto our manufacturing. In our region, I can only speak at that, and it's North Central Economic Development. Whether or not, I can't comment on how complex and cumbersome it is, because they take care of everything. They do a wonderful job. They make it easy for me.
Correct.
And have made it very easy for me. And they are very quick to react. They're very quick to get the loans through to committee, get approvals. And I see very little. I'm called to come down and make signatures. So not sure how complicated the system is, but they certainly do a great job of handling that very quickly.
So then maybe it's the region, or we need, so does anybody have any other comments about, because the only other thing I'd like to hear from any of you is maybe your input on some of the thoughts of the $30 billion lending that's being proposed by the administration that's currently working its way through Congress, about believing that this infusion of capital into community banks will help the lending to all of you, because the number one thing I hear from every small business that I talk to is the lack of capital that you're able to get. And everybody's trying to point fingers somewhere. And do you think that this infusion into the community banks somehow, or the banks, are going to help you get your loans any easier? I don't know, Mr. Eifert, if you've heard of this going through Congress, or if you think that that's going to help at all.
You know, kind of with my bank board hat on now, we just haven't seen a lot of loan demand out there, and some of the loan demand that is out there is because it's coming from some place where they don't want it anymore, just because of the lack of liquidity, or it's just not that good a credit. So overall, I think most of the lenders that I speak with just haven't seen a robust demand for loans.
Okay.
That's what I hear oftentimes.
I would
Mr. Gay?
Echo our banking relationships have traditionally been with some of the larger banks, those that received help from the government. And after 10 years that my wife and I have owned the business and run it profitably and successfully, we were told that we would have about a 50-50 chance of seeing our line of credit renewal. We had paid back all the term debt. All we had was basically a line for working capital left, and they came back and told us 50-50. So we have started looking at the community banks, because what we're looking for is a relationship.
Right.
And I do believe that can help.
Okay, and my time is up. I yield back to the chairman.